Assalamu alaikum, dear students and viewers. For another session I have come. In my last lecture I have discussed about transformation, and one thing I like to repeat, that I do not feel to repeat my introduction again. I have already introduced myself. So let's start the topic. Today I will discuss on affirmative to negative. In our everyday life we express ourselves sometimes positively, I mean in an affirmative way, and sometimes negatively, I mean in negation, sometimes. And there are few roles how, and as both affirmative and negative are the part of affirmative sentence. You should know affirmative sentence. An affirmative sentence is a sentence that expresses or describes or narrates something simply. That means an affirmative sentence is a sentence of narration, description, etc., etc. And it may be in an affirmative way, it may be in a negative way. And today we will find how we can make a negative sentence or from an affirmative sentence. There are so many ways that we can deny or we can use in a negative way. The most common one, that is by using antonym. In my last lecture I have told you about synonym and antonym. Antonym is opposite meaningful word. Suppose I love my students. I love my students. Here the important point is love. Love, this is about I love my student, and the important word should be changed here. But we can change the word, that means structure, but we can't change the meaning. So I love my students, if it is told or asked to turn it as negative, I cannot tell that I do not love my students. If I express it, if I tell it, that my sentence would be incorrect. That means not correct. Actually I love my students. So the correct sentence would be here, I do not dislike, because for love antonym would be hate or dislike. But hate here I do not mean here appropriate, because for all relations hate is not appropriate. Here I can tell that I do not dislike my students. What is meaning? Meaning কি হলো? আমি আমার ছাত্রছাত্রীকে অপছন্দ করি না. That I tell that in all sentences the word to word structure, the word to word or dictionary meaning is not appropriate. So one point, that is by using antonym of the base word we can transform a sentence from assertive to negative. Another one, if in the affirmative sentence, if there is only or alone, and these only or alone refer for three ways. One is for person, another one is for things, another one is for a number. Just like a sentence only, a sentence by using only or alone. Only the brave, only the brave are supported. The sentence, only the brave are supported. Okay, here only refers for the brave. That means the total brave people. So, for this only, I am to use here, or we are to use here none but, because the brave are people. So, whenever only or alone refer for people, then we use their none but. So, the negative sentence would be none but the brave are supported. And only for another, that is for a thing. I want only this picture. That means no other picture, only this picture, only this board. I want only this picture. Picture, photograph, book, etc. All these are things. So, here for things we need to use nothing but. So, what would be? I want nothing but this book, but this picture of the base word that I pointed, that I am pointing. Before it, we need to use nothing but. Another use of only or alone for a number. Suppose Mr. Karim is only 40. Mr. Karim is only 40. 40 is digit, but this is referred for Mr. Karim. But this only referred for the number. So we use here for negative pattern not more than or not less than. So in negative we can answer Mr. Karim is not more than or not less than 40. So these three uses for only or alone. Another one, if there is in the affirmative sentence, if there is the use of both dash and. Suppose both Karim and Rohim, both Karim and Rohim are honest. Here I am using both dash and. That means here I am using few other words. Both Karim and Rohim are honest. It means that I am taking both of them as honest. So for negative, I am to use here not only but also. So for negative term, we are to use not only Karim but also. Not only Karim but also Rohim are honest. Okay? Not only Karim but also Rohim are honest. That means I am agreeing both of them. Another one, that is every, very important. Every for affirmative sentence. Every. Everyone hates a liar. Also an universal sentence. Everyone hates a liar. Universal one. Every mother loves her child. Every citizen deserves his rights, etc. All these are universal. But the important thing is here every. Okay? For negative, we can use here there is. For every, we can use there is no. There is no. Every mother loves her child. There is no mother but loves her child. That means for every, we are to use there is no, and the base word, I mean with every, one or mother or citizen or rose, etc., etc. And then but and the rest of the sentences. So there is no citizen but deserve his right. And we can also use here also for every, we can use here also antonym. Every mother loves her child. We can transform it as like no mother dislikes her child. No mother dislikes her child. Mr. Every student is active. Every student is active. No student is inactive. But this is complicated. This term is complicated, and especially the weaker students may not in this way. So the easiest way of turning every is there is no. I think this is the easiest or simplest way of turning into negative. Another that mention time in affirmative sentence, as soon as. As soon as the principal entered, comma, we stood up. Two clauses here. As soon as the principal entered. This is a clause, but this is subordinate clause. Dependent clause, not independent clause. The independent clause is here, we stood up. Okay. For this as soon as, to turn into negative, we use here no sooner. No sooner. And the part of dependent sentence. No sooner had the principal entered, then we stood up. That means what we mean here? We mean here that whenever in affirmative sentence if as soon as is there, then how can we change? We can change it by using the structure of no sooner plus past perfect. In which part? The part which dependence. I mean subordinate clause. So, no sooner had the principal entered THA and then we stood up. We stood up, this would remain unchanged. Why? Because it is main clause. It is independent clause. It can independently, that means this clause, this part can independently express itself without the help of the former or earlier portion. Okay. Another one, superlative degree. If in the affirmative part or in the affirmative sentence we find superlative degree, then we will turn it as using there the positive degree. Just like, she is the most beautiful girl in the class. She is the most beautiful, most beautiful. This is superlative degree. Most beautiful girl in the class. Some students may tell me that can't we turn it as comparative? No, we can't turn it as comparative. If we want to turn it negative, then the best way of turning the superlative form into positive. So, she is the most beautiful girl in the class. We are to use in the positive degree. No other girl in the class is as beautiful as she. Or no other girls, we can use also no other girls also. But here the verb would be also, the verb would also be plural. No other girls in the class are as beautiful as she, or no other girl in the class is as beautiful as she. And in the superlative degree, if there is, she is one of the, or he is one of the best student, he is one of the best students in the class. Same way, we will turn it into positive degree. For one of, we use here very few for negative, because very few doesn't mean positive. It is a complex sense, complex meaning, very few. Onnotamo, jar bangla hocche onnotamo. So, very few students are as good as he. And for very few, after very few, the subject must always remain plural and the verb would also be plural. And another one, that is as we find in positive degree. Just like Corinne is as good, Corinne is as good as Rohim. Here, for this as and as, we turn it into comparative degree by using, for the first one, not less. We are to use here not less. Just like Corinne is as good as Rohim. Here we are to use the sentence Corinne is not less good. Corinne is not less good than Rohim. So, for negative we use here not less and then. Another that is very important in affirmative part, that is to plus adjective or adverb plus to. Just like I am too tired to speak. If you want to negative, then you are to use here so plus that, so plus adjective plus that and the rest of the portion negative. I am too tired to speak. For negative, the negative expression would be I am so tired that I cannot speak. There are many more ways that you can transform from affirmative to negative. But the important ones are discussed here, and this is my cordial request to my students. Please read the book, read grammar, learn skill. The more the skill you will learn, the more you will correctly speak, correctly write, correctly express yourself. Okay? No more today. Thanks a lot. Allah Hafiz.